Okay, welcome back. We're still talking about email aliases, roughly page 608. In the Linux world, you can have a thing called a .forward file, a file in your home directory that the machine consults to say, wait a minute, I want to forward, like I'm getting ready to go on vacation, and so I don't need to have like super user powers to be able to do this. I just create a forward file in my home directory that says, all email that normally would come into me, I'm going to send over to Sally. Okay, and then of course, you do have to remember to undo that when you get off of vacation, because otherwise Sally's going to be really pissed at you. You can have a mailing thing go to a file, automatically just store to a file, or go to a program or a printer or weird things. This forwarding thing you can really have some fun with. Okay, so on page 612, they start talking about the choices for the mail transport agent. So let me get back to this guy. And so there's a bunch of choices, okay? XM is probably the most popular one. That's probably the one that's out there the most. But SendMail, which is the original one, you can kind of sort of tell by the market share. It's been around the longest. It is now commercially supported. It was just, like anything else. But to tell you the truth, it was never really designed, SendMail was never really designed to be sent as a binary file, okay? What it was designed to be sent as source code, and then you would hard code like the names of your machines and all the port numbers, and then you would compile the program. So it wasn't easily configured. So we're not using that one. XM, of course, is very popular, but to tell you the truth, it requires a web interface to be able to configure it, and we don't have a web interface, so that's not really going to be an option for us. At least we don't have a web interface yet. Exchange, well, Microsoft Exchange, that's a great choice, but I got to pay money for that, so that's certainly not going to be. And typically, Microsoft Exchange, this is going to take a little bit of thinking. Microsoft Exchange is not normally exposed directly to the internet, so perhaps these statistics here are a little off. It's hard to compare the statistics because typically there's an extra piece, what's called an Edge, Microsoft Edge piece, an Exchange Edge, which is the only piece that gets exposed to the interface, to the internet. So I kind of doubt that we're at 1%. Okay, I think we're much higher than that. It's just that we don't do it. So we're going to use postfix. Now, postfix is not the best. It's not the fastest. The only thing that it has going for it is it's dang easy to configure. And again, I'm not trying to torture you guys, so we're going to use postfix. Okay. So they talk about postfix on page 658. So perhaps it is the easiest to configure. Hooray! And it uses regular expressions. Ooh, don't you just love regular expressions? It uses regular expressions to route messages from one MTA to another. That's what it does. So I'm looking for something like, Microsoft.com. It goes, okay, I see this. I see the regular expression. So that has to go to that server. That one has to go to that server. That one has to go to that server. Okay. So it's architectures. Now, postfix is not a single monolithic application. And in fact, it's broken up into lots and lots of little pieces. Multiple pieces. And so here's some of the things that it has. It's got an SMTP a daemon. It's got a pickup thing and a cleanup thing and a bounce thing and all these things. Okay, so there's an awful lot of this that gets in here. We're gonna do a bit of that in just a minute. So all incoming mail goes through this thing called mail drop, and typically that gets picked up by the pickup. So pickup says, "Hey, something just showed up and got dropped. The MTA, dropped me in here, so I've got something to do." And so postfix is going to pick it up from the MTA and basically say, well, actually postfix is the MTA, but the MTA is going to say, I noticed something showed up in the mailbox drop, and so I'm going to pick it up, and then I'm going to run it through cleanup, and the cleanup is going to make sure that the headers get scrubbed if they want to get scrubbed, or this is the places where you would do some additional virus checking and things of that nature. Okay, then you have a queue manager, and the queue manager, has 5 different queues. Let's don't get into too much detail. But it's got an incoming queue, an archive queue, a deferred one, and things that are on hold and things that are corrupted. The queue manager decides where to send it. So, do I send it to SMTP? Or do I send it to a local file or send it to a virtual thing? You know, all these little things coming out of the queue manager. So yes, the queue manager gets to decide what's going on. Local, in this case, that's that you know, like, for example, this is where local would be like where those aliases would kick in. You send it to webmaster, and local would say, hang on, it's not really webmaster, it's Bob. You know, that kind of thing would happen. Cool. Virtual. Virtual mailboxes are not ones designed for humans. They're fake. Well, not fake. They're real. They're email messages that are sent to programs. Now, let me give you a crazy example. This sounds kind of dumb, but just bear with me. In the old days, we didn't all have fax machines, and so what you would do, just like we had a centralized print server, like in the middle of my cube farm, right? Big cube farm, centralized server where the print servers are. We had a fax machine like that too, and I would email my fax that I wanted to send to this fax server, and that virtual guy would pick it up and go, oh, instead of putting this into a message store, I see you want to send it to the fax machine. Kind of cool. So it's an email box of sort. It just certainly isn't intended to be for humans. Okay, on page 661, we talk about the security. One of the cool things about all these pieces that are in here is that none of them run as SU. So you don't use sudo, you know, behind the scenes. You don't run sudo to run any of these things, which is actually pretty doggone safe, right? Kind of makes sense. And there's no real parent-child relationship. These are all standalone things, right? Okay, just saying. So there's a configuration. Of course there's a configuration. It's called a master.c file. So let me just bring up our machine here. And let's do man on 5 postscript or postconfig. Whoop. Try postscript. Okay. I thought for sure post.config was going to be it. Huh. Okay, well, let's try a master.cf. Okay. Oh, I know why. I haven't installed it yet. It kind of helps to install the thing before you can ask for the man command for this thing. Okay, I was being bonehead. Forgive me. Okay, so if you ever do get to the master.cf file, it looks like a shell script. Okay, it's a shell script that runs. It uses regular expression, like I mentioned before, and does a bunch of things. So here's the things that you're going to have to do for an upcoming assignment. I want you to do an apt-get, install postfix. And it's going to come up and ask you, is this like a local thing, or you want to act as an MTA for other? And so I'm going to suggest this first time you run it, that you run it just local only. In other words, you only be able to send email to yourself or maybe some other accounts on this same machine. Okay? You're not going to be able to send emails to anyone else. Now later on, you're going to have a term assignment where you're going to have to come back and fix that so that it will work over the network. But right now, that's not the case. And then a mail client. Now, there's a lot of mail clients out there, but the one I'm kind of sort of familiar with is one called snail, okay, or snail. So snail is a very good email client, and it's in the lecture notes, and there's a link in here about how to do all the configuration, how to configure, PostScript to do its thing, and postfix to do its thing, plus how to install smail. It's all in the lecture notes, and I don't think you should have too much trouble. Okay, we've made it to the end of the chapter. Hooray! And I'll see you guys again in some future chapter.